It's unbelievably weak, I would say. I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support.
And duplicitous. They changed what exactly they agreed to by the time they put it in writing. President Trump slamming Iran's latest peace proposal as he weighs military action, signaling he is open to restarting Project Freedom Plus while the regime vows to keep fighting. This, as the Wall Street Journal editorial board argues, Iran thinks Trump is bluffing. So how much pressure will it take to secure a deal? Let's bring in Nathan Sales, former Trump administration ambassador at large and coordinator for counterterrorism. So, Nathan, the president's not, I wouldn't think, would bomb while in China, but clearly they are opening up their solar plexus to be hit again.
Yeah, it's time to turn up the heat on Iran. These guys have been cheating on the ceasefire from day one, and their latest response shows they're just not taking this process seriously. So we've been very patient with these guys. The president has been very patient with the Iranians. The Iranians don't see that as patience. They see it as weakness, and it's time to get their attention.
And I'm sure there are plans that should really be more than just open up the strait. Iran has a great elimination strategy. They've exercised it. And arming some of these other groups and some of the Iranian citizens, some of the 89 million who hate their government, we have to put something like that in place.
Yeah. So the president certainly has options on the table that he's working through right now to figure out from a scale of 1 to 10.
All at once.
Yeah. So you could go 10, but there are intermediate steps you could do as well. And I think whatever you end up doing, at a minimum, you've got to restart Project Freedom. We've got to keep the economic pressure on the Iranians. We're squeezing their economy, and they're going to run out of gas at a certain point. But at the same time, we need to be reopening that lifeline that the world needs and that we need for commerce, legitimate commerce, to be going in and out of the strait. That's the first step.
So here's with the speaker. And by the way, they look at this guy as the moderate. He said there is no alternative to accept the rights of the Iranian people as laid out in the 14-point proposal. Any other approach will be completely inconclusive, nothing but one failure after another. The longer they drag their feet, the more American taxpayers will pay for it. So they're thinking that the $4.50 gas is going to force Trump to act before the pressure that we put on them.
Yeah. You know, I couldn't tell if that was the Iranian speaker or if that was the New York Times editorial. The thing is...
Or Senator Mark Kelly or Senator Jack Reed, who should know better.
Yeah. The thing is, we have enormous leverage, and we have the ability to squeeze their economy and bring them to the table. And this response just shows they're not taking this seriously. The rights of the Iranian people to enrich uranium and preserve a pathway to a bomb, nobody has a right to a nuclear bomb.
The only reason why our bases were hit, and the Washington Post says 220 separate hits on our bases, is because the Russians were giving them all the satellite coordinates. Should we be pressuring the Russians to knock it off, or should we just accept the fact that if we help Ukraine, they're going to help Iran?
Yeah, the Russians are not our friend. We should be very clear-eyed about this. Vladimir Putin sees the United States as his top geopolitical rival. He wants to take us down. He wants us to no longer be the leader of the free world. And if that means that he can help the Iranians or help the North Koreans or help other bad actors, we have to, right? We have to pressure him from a position of strength and with clear eyes, recognizing that Russia is not some secret American friend just waiting to do business deals. They're an enemy.
If you look at the infrastructure of Iran right now, do you think that another week of bombing could break them, or do you think it would just be them enduring more strife?
Well, I think what the president has said is we've got about 75% of our targets taken out over the 6 weeks or so that the war was underway. Probably 25% left. How long does that take? Maybe 1 week, maybe 2. Hard to say at this point from the outside, but the president's certainly getting options right now.
Final thought, what do you think is going to be happening a week from now when the president gets back from China?
I think the Pentagon is going to be dusting off some of their target decks and presenting the president with decision memos on what to do. I don't think anything happens while the president's in Beijing, but he's proved us wrong before. We'll see.
Do you think China's feeling the heat?
They certainly should be. They absolutely should be. They've been providing intelligence to the Iranians, dual-use equipment to the Iranians, radars not very good to the Iranians. American kit is a lot better. That's one of the things we're learning from this war. American kit is a lot better than their Chinese counterparts, and I hope Xi Jinping is paying attention and not trying to take Taiwan.
I do think the president's got a strong hand. Don't believe a lot of the so-called news stories that you see as he goes into Beijing. Nathan, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.